So we will go ahead and stop there for Super E.D.F. Let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit. All right, so Super E.D.F. I just want to start off by saying that this is actually, I actually had a lot of fun with this game. Actually, this was it felt really nice. Like I was saying before I even started playing the game that I played a few shooter games, especially when we were doing season 1 with the NES games, right? With this, you can obviously see the level of graphic improvement. I can definitely see the inspiration that this game might have taken from like other horizontal shooters at the time, or that came before it at the same time. All that good stuff. So it takes what was done before and what was being done current, and kind of uses it and kind of does its own thing. Like, let me just say right off the bat, the fact that you have 8 different options of shooting. Amazing. It's almost like you're choosing a different, like you're piloting the same ship, right? But it's almost like a fighting game because each one has a completely different stats and what's aiming you do, what kind of gun you do is going to largely depend on your playstyle. Do you want to play this like a straight shooter? Then you can go with the Vulcan gun. Do you want to have a little help and focus on dodging like I was doing? You can go with the homing. You want to like charge your shots so you can have a better chance of doing more damage. You can do something like atomic or the photon or whatever. I just like those options. Like, again, only 3 of them worked for me personally, but if you were to play this game yourself, you would probably find yourself with a lot more options. I love the fact that you could configure all these different button layouts. So with the layout I chose, I had on the L button, I had triggered to change your mode, which feels good, and then you have the R button, which can speed you up a little bit. By having both buttons on the triggers and then with one button on the shooting, you basically are using all your fingers. But you can also just use them all set to the face buttons like it has by default, if you like that. But I do like that, even with a game that came out like in 91 or 92, that they have all those different options that you can switch the buttons around to your liking. I really appreciate that about that. That's like very good accessibility for such an early game. And then you have all those different gun options. Like this game, it's going out of its way a lot to like really make you feel comfortable playing it. However, this game is very hard. It's extremely difficult. It does rely on you a lot on learning. So, you get basically 4 lives, right? And then in each level you're actually playing, your shield can take up to 3 hits. So you take more than 3 hits, you're dead, right? So I will say in that sense, this game is pretty unforgiving because by its base design, I'll talk more about its switch features in a second, but by its base design, it's a very difficult game because you get those 3 hits and there's a lot being shot at you, so you really only get like 3 chances to keep that life going. And if you fail, you have to start from the very beginning level. And if level 1 is any indication, those levels are long. So you have a lot to avoid during that time period. The good thing, though, is that your level, your power level is like constantly increasing as you defeat enemies, even if you die. So if you lose early, you can use that power that you accumulated from your last death and use it to power your ship. And if you can get all the way to 4, like I did, you can do some serious damage to your enemies. So it's worth it to accumulate that gauge. Like a lot of old games, it's really going to be dependent upon you learning as you go forward. Your deaths are going to basically teach you that. But again, that's 4 lives. And as you guys saw, if you were watching the gameplay portion, you know that if you lose all those lives, you're starting right back to the beginning, right back to level 1, like all your progress. And I don't know how many levels this game has. If it has a lot, that's a pretty steep penalty. Now you can mitigate that a little bit if you're playing on Switch, which I imagine most of you would. That would be willing to give this game a try. You can mitigate that with suspend points. That'll help you a lot. But if you lose too many lives beforehand, you got to be very careful about your spend points. It's not going to be a get out of jail free card because if you don't have that many lives, it's basically going to be dependent upon you on surviving for that time. Like, for example, if you go all the way to, I don't know, level 2 or even like to 3 and you only have 1 life, you're going to be using that suspend point option a lot to make sure that you don't lose any more lives and you can keep going. So, again, I was playing only on normal difficulty. I did not attempt hard mode on this playthrough, but even normal was quite difficult. Like I eventually did finish that first level, and it felt very satisfying to do so. So if you're into games that like are difficult, that have that satisfying feeling when you master them, you'll get that with this game. This game definitely has that, where it encourages you to learn the patterns. It encourages you to, not make as many mistakes. With my gameplay style with the homing, it helped me a lot because I didn't have to worry much about us aiming my shots at the opponents. I had to more worry about not getting hit myself. And there's other guns that I'm sure will have that kind of gameplay. Like if they're powerful, you can do it that way. I want to give a special shout out to the explosion rounds, because if you use the explosion rounds and it hits somebody, the shots will go up and down. I can only imagine what that will do on higher levels too. So if you're the kind that likes to think ahead, that shot, and there was another shot that awarded that as well, that will be very good for you to help you defeat those enemies. But again, that wasn't my gameplay style, so I didn't go with it. For me, it was homing, so I could focus on dodging and still do enough damage as need be, and that helped me a lot. It may be different for you if you give this game a try. And on that note, with suspend points, this game definitely is a lot more accessible for people playing it today. This would be a very difficult sell if you didn't have the suspend point feature, because it is asking you to really just, you would do, like, let's say you finally master level 1 and then you go to level 2 and then you lose, and then you have to do all level 1 again to start working on mastering level 2, and so on and so forth. And then this game doesn't have a lot of features besides the main game and its configurations. But what really gave this replay value back in the day, assuredly, was the fact that it was so hard to finish. So you had to do those levels over and over again until you mastered it, and that's definitely the selling point. But if you don't have that much time, the suspend points will help you a little bit, but you still have to learn those levels. And if you do a suspend point at the wrong time, you could find yourself suffering to get through the game. I would say that aside from the rather steep difficulty of this game, I think it holds up rather well. It does a lot good that I don't think I've seen many Super Nintendo or NES shooters do at this time, and I really admire it for that. But you got to go in knowing that you're going to have, this game is hard and you're going to have to learn. I really can't imagine how much harder the hard mode is, because even that normal difficulty was, it got pretty tough, like in the end. It wasn't even that the levels were tough, it's just like the general game design is difficult. So I imagine hard mode is going to be even harder. Yeah, if you're looking for a challenge, I can't recommend this game enough, because it's definitely difficult. And that's pretty much it. Like, if you enjoy horizontal shooters that have a challenge, you will get that with this game for sure. I would highly encourage anyone to give it a try, though, because it's definitely not your typical horizontal shooter. Again, those options really do, not just control options, but the gun options. It really makes this game stand out from any other thing I've played up to this point. The fact that you have so many different options of how you can dispatch the enemies. It's definitely worth a shot. It's definitely worth a shot. Whether it holds up is really going to largely depend on how much you enjoy these difficult horizontal shooters, because that does seem to be what a lot of them focus on, the difficulty of them. I haven't seen many easy horizontal shooters, so that may be just what you're into. If you enjoy horizontal shooters, maybe you just live in that kind of world where difficulty is just the norm. And if so, I can't recommend this game enough. Go ahead and give it a try. It's different. And that's pretty much my thoughts on Earth Defense Force. So we're going to